Beginning. All right. Then we shall begin. Welcome to Section 31, episode number 320. I'm Dan Hammond.
And I am Rogue Schindler.
This week we have but one subject, and that is the first half of a podcast that we listened to, the continuing voyages of the USS Excelsior. I think it's the Excelsior C, right?
I think so. Yeah, that looks like when I opened the website, I was like, why, if this is the Excelsior, do they have a shot of Enterprise E? And I was like, oh, then I wonder if whatever version they're doing is Sovereign class, and that looks like it to be the case. I think I found another page where you could scroll by and you could see on the saucer behind, whatever front they had, it was
NCC
2000
C, USS Excelsior. Yeah. Awesome. I've had a good time so far. So, what? Right. What were you expecting, and what did we get?
I wasn't sure really what to expect. When I looked at the website, it looked like a story, a fictional, a podcast, radio podcast, storytelling podcast, like radio show. But when it was described to us, they were talking about, it's like, oh, it's got Nichelle Nichols and Walter Koenig, and for this 50th anniversary, and it's like kind of reminiscent to all the things that made Star Trek great. And I was like, oh, well, so did they interrupt it to talk about the anniversary or what? So I really didn't know what to expect. But it wasn't what we got, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so. It's just it sounds like their kind of normal story was either interrupted or they built up to this point, and we're taking a break from the main crew to jump aboard the actual first Excelsior, which is being helmed by captained by Uhura. And I noticed they're throwing around her first name a lot, and visiting. I guess for the moment, Captain Chekhov is there, and was Lieutenant? No, no longer Lieutenant. Commander.
Commander Savick.
Yeah,
Admiral Savick.
Right. That was fun. I have to say I've really enjoyed what they've heard so far. The story has been pretty well written. The voice acting talent that they got is what can you say? I mean, those three doing their roles are pretty fantastic. I get the feeling that there isn't quite as much energy and what am I trying to say here? They're not quite as into it and feeling the intensity of the moment between.
They're old. They're old. You're trying to say they're old.
That's exactly what it feels like.
They sound old.
It feels like they're just,
and it's okay.
Yeah, it feels like they're just saying, oh, you know what? We're in charge. We're gonna make things happen. There's no rush. we're gonna take control, and we're doing our jobs. The only one that doesn't sound that way, which is perfect, is Savick, who's a Vulcan, so not old.
Exactly. Yeah, they definitely Uhura, who it definitely has the slow, measured cadence of an older, wiser person.
Sure.
No,
well, yeah.
You could definitely. You could definitely hear it like at conventions and such. But they're all it's been 50 years, as we just mentioned, 50th anniversary. They even made a great joke about that in the episode. There are a lot of little quips about whippersnapper. Oh, ensign. You don't. Oh, you should have known what that was. It's like, oh, it's okay. Yeah, you should have known that. But you're young. You'll pick it up. And they make a reference back to, because they keep referring to Janice Rand, who was on the Excelsior with Sulu, and it sounds like in this universe was continued on as Uhura's first officer, but has died in a recent incident. And like, oh, we all met on this episode way back. Wow, that was 50 years ago, and now we're all this old and whatever. And so it was pretty cool. It was nice. Mentioned they to kind of pay homage to that and also work it into the story. But yeah, Walter Koenig did a great job, I think, coming back to the accent, and still, he's a little less. I mean, he's the youngest of all of them, so
Right.
He's got the advantage. But he definitely, you could hear his years coming in. But like you said, I was like, oh, whoever they've got talking with them sounds really good. That's a really great measured Volk. Oh wait, that's right. Robin Curtis is supposed to be in this.
Yeah, that was perfect. It was amazing. The story. Well, like I said, we've gotten. What'd you say? We're 49 minutes in.
Yeah,
There's kind of a natural break point. It's definitely captured my attention the whole time. I listened to it on the drive home through heavy traffic, and I listened to a few more minutes of it so I can catch up to where you were just before the show. And story's interesting. Romulan neutral zone sounds like I got to go back and look and see if the people are talking about, the enemy, the legate, as they're calling him, the Romulan commander. If that's an established character, or they've just set it up so that they have a history together, and it sounds like they have history together. It's very well written, I think.
Yeah, I like they did a really good job of doing a lot of implied backstory without, doing the or it's like, oh, I've known this person for years, not way back when we did this, and then we had this encounter, and then this had happened, and we've all done all these. It's like, yeah, we don't need to know all that. In fact, in general, they do that really well. Because I think they had to with this. It sounds like this as a special was sort of, it's not their main crew. They have a regular Excelsior crew on the Excelsior C, which sounds like it's probably in the TNG timeline, yep. Obviously with the Sovereign class. So they have their own regular group of voice actors who do this as a podcast, but they did a pretty good job of setting up the story so that when we hear Uhura and Chekhov and Savick, they're on their own ship, Excelsior A, I'm assuming still. They don't really say, or just Excelsior. But they set up the story so that it's like, all right, well, we meet you, but then we can't do this. This is part of our plot line and needs to get done, but we can't do it for reason X. And so the bulk of the story is on the original Excelsior with the older crew. So it's a nice, it's obviously a setup so that, okay, we can have this episode with the other crew and that's fine and interact with them. But they did a good job setting it up, and I don't have any real complaints about it, the way they did it. I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with it.
Yeah, certainly. And we'll pick up and listen to the second half, I guess a little bit more than a half, maybe 55% or 60% or so before the next show. Is there anything else you want any predictions or anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up? It's going to be a short show. We've got a new set coming out Friday that we don't have any spoilers for.
On Friday, right?
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then once that's out, we're going to be getting close to the next set, which is the set that I worked on. So I'm excited about that. The 1E set. Other than that, not much. We got an announcement for San Diego Masters over the last week or two. So that's gotten some conversation on the boards. Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. We had a recent return. Unfortunately, I guess he was going to try and surprise us. I had seen it on Facebook, but I guess it wasn't really well known amongst our Trek list. But an old friend, Justin Eaton, who he played here many years ago, almost like 8 years ago, 10 years ago. He was here for several years, but he's in the Coast Guard, and so he's constantly getting moved around. I know he was in the Bay Area for a while and kind of rejuvenated their scene, and then went up to Seattle area for a while. But he's back in town, and I guess was going to pop in on the Academy event that was supposed to happen this weekend. But unfortunately, there were only 3 people signed up, and so it got canceled before it actually happened, and he would have been the 4th. So that's too bad. It would have been a cool surprise. But yeah, definitely it's nice that we have more players back, and hopefully we'll get to see him at our next event.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Look forward to that. Um, I am going to be start prepping for the race that we've got in 2 weeks, and so I'm going to be busy with that. I'm sure we'll have stories from that after it happens. In the
Yes, indeed.
meantime, I think that's about it.
I think
So, like I
that's
said,
it.
yeah, we'll listen to the rest of the episode and we'll chat about it next Monday. And for those of you that try to catch us online, we're going to move the show back about half an hour to 9 o'clock as our starting time instead of 8:30, just to accommodate, uh, all the
Life.
runarounds. Yeah. So, very good. We will talk to you next week.
All right. In the meantime, I am Sir Rogue,
And I am Sir Dan.
and I will remind you all to expand your power in the universe.
I will draw to end.